The other time I flew to Dubai, I was in my hotel until I finished. I left straight to the airport. They said, come and do sightseeing. I said, I'm busy. If I want to come for sightseeing, I'll bring my wife. I came for business. There's no time for sightseeing. Because when I enter my room, sometimes an angel of light just walks into you. And you see something you can never forget. You see something you can never become familiar with. If they come to you 1,000 times, it will be like the first time. And anything they tell you. There was a time I was sick. I was afraid. My liver, my lungs, my kidney, every organ was about to fail. I was choking and gasping for air. While I laid on the bed talking to the Lord, a being sat on my bed. The glory he came with, all the hairs on my body stood. I was in shock, and he just said, because I live, you shall see tomorrow. The moment he said it, a being stood up and left me. From that day, I don't fall sick. I can keep the most strenuous routine. I can keep the most strenuous itinerary. Come back the next day, I rise up like a stone. Because a creature of eternity whispered to me, because I live, you shall see tomorrow. And so we are not afraid. Even in the storm, we are standing. Where men fear to go to, we enter there, and we enter with boldness. It takes much more than intelligence to be a ruler on earth. You must be granted access. You must be given allowance to participate. When you start entering into the corridor of participation, then scepters begin to rest on you. He said, who shall stand upon the mountains of God? Who shall ascend his holy hills? Because every engagement we carry is with an attempt to ascend the holy hills of God. Because spirits manipulate this realm. And a man who will rule in this realm must have interaction with spirits. That's why I said, you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, to an innumerable company of angels, to the spirit of just men made perfect. You must meet beings to rule this earth. Even Jesus in Matthew 17, when he was praying, the Bible said Moses and Elijah, they stood with him on that mountain, telling him what he must do. You can't go out if your friends are only men. You are weak. You can't have friends, brothers, and they are all men. Men are too weak and ally. They can become great liabilities. In addition to the men God give you, have partners in the spirit. That when you scream, Elijah will come. That when you scream, an angel will appear. That's why the business will not close down. You can build a bank for 30 years. When the bank is about to shine, the government comes and sees it. Unless you also have people on the other side who can touch the heart of the king, you will have a problem. And so the reason men will shine is because they press into God until they began to interact with beings in heaven. The Bible spoke about widows. It said widows received their dead back to life. They came somewhere that they had power over the dead. They came somewhere that they had authority over the dead. The problem we have is that we have forgotten how the fathers did it. The fathers were not naked. The fathers were not ordinary people. They pressed into God until they came somewhere. They were enthroned in the spirit. And when they talk from their thrones. Because we don't have thrones, that's why we compete with ourselves. When you find somebody doing it in a certain way, you too want to do it that way. It's not how it is done alone that makes it work. It's who is doing it with you. There is a place that you are being invited to. There are beings waiting for you. There are realms you should access. Don't be trapped in this world. Don't be carried away by the skyscrapers in Manchester. There's a realm more beautiful than what you see here. There's a place more spectacular than what you see here. There is a wisdom that you need to have in order to alter the direction of a nation. Daniel had that wisdom. A point came, the Bible said that the king sent for him, and this was what they said about Daniel. He had the ability to explain hard sentences. He said the spirit of the Holy Ghost dwell in him. He said light dwells with this man, and an excellent wisdom. There is a dimension of the Daniel order. If you have that kind of encounter, that wisdom can walk through your life. There is a wisdom Joseph had that made him become the savior of the economic structure of a nation. If you have that Joseph's encounter, that wisdom can come on you, and you can become a force in the economic structure in this nation. You need to hear something. Sometimes as you are pressing, then Joseph walks to you and tell you, this is how I took over Egypt. You will have a blueprint that is not found in Oxford. Sometimes you are in government, as you are pressing, then Nehemiah will come to you and tell you what to do to take the heart of the king. They can seize everybody's property, not you, because you have heard from a man who was able to get a king to rebuild Jerusalem. And so anything you do, you have the allegiance of the king. Men will come to you and say, how are you doing it? Even you, if you are honest, you will know it's beyond you. There's an immortal economy around you. This is how men begin to shine. Shining is a mystical reality, but there's a protocol. And the protocol is interaction. Who have you seen? What have you heard? Who has spoken to you? United Kingdom is an ancient civilization. For you to touch the foundation, creatures of eternity must talk to you. They must visit you. They must interact with you. And this is not a prerogative of prophets. It's for everyone who is a child of God. He said, because you have come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, to an innumerable company of angels. See, there is something you will touch. You will have favor that you can't explain. Things are not working. Then Esther whispers to you and say, this is what you do to work favor. You can work favor that you can break protocols. You can work favor that kings can bow and lower their standard because of you. It is who you have touched. They come with graces. They come with dimensions. They could be spirit of judgment made perfect. They could be angelic functionaries. They could be visitations of the Spirit of God or Christ himself. But by all means, make sure you have those encounters. We don't rule the world by chance. When you see a man doing something that the world pays attention to, it's beyond where he's living. There are many people who will leave Africa and come to the UK today. They will become princes. It's not about the location. It's about what you carry. It's about what you carry. If you don't carry anything, if you like, relocate to the palace, you will still be a nobody. But if God rubs that thing on you, if you start having those encounters, you don't need to be in the palace. Even the king can look for you, because immortal beings have committed to you immortal realities. A conference like this is a summon. It's a summon that you don't grow old and discover you made no impact. But the door is open. The slate is plain. You can decide what is written on it. You begin from inspiration. You journey through discipline. You come into hunger, and you stay hungry until participation is permitted. Participation. Nobody is small. Men just reveal the dimension of their encounters. If you have those encounters, your stature can change. The impact you have on the government, on the nation can change. It's not even about where you came from. This is not I came from Nigeria, I came from Uganda, I came from Rwanda, I came from Kenya. That's not the factor. The factor is what are the encounters you've had. If you have the right encounter, is it not somebody that came from Pakistan who is your prime minister today? What are the encounters you've had? It's not about where you came from in the natural. It's about where you have been in the spirit. When you even consider his age, you are humbled. Church is not religion. It's a place of awakening the glory, so that everyone can walk in that order. And when you begin to participate, then you are sent. You are sent into the economy. You are sent into the media. You are sent into the academia. And you come with resources. Resources of wisdom. Resources of power. Resources of creativity. Resources of excellence. That's how we take over. You don't go into the world to go to God. You go to God to go into the world. He said he called some to be with him so that he might send them. If you have not been sent, it means you have not yet gone there. Because everyone who has participated have been sent somewhere. There are some apostles who teach from the altar, but there are other apostles who takes over the economy. There are other apostles who take over the academia. And every one of us in the New Testament, we are to be sent into our world. Jesus said, go into all the worlds and disciple all nations. But you don't go without a witness. You don't go without an empowerment. That's why I said, tarry until you are endued with power. Tarry until you are endued with power. When you are endued, then you can take over your world. How beautiful it will be when suddenly the nation begins to be reshaped and you find somebody with black skin making the policy. Not because he is black skinned, but because he has touched something that is superior to skin color. How beautiful it will be when the nation is being reshaped and you see young lads, old persons, all working out a protocol that brings the glory of God to the territory because they've met him. He said, that which was from the beginning, which we have seen, we heard, we saw, we looked upon, and we handled. Men are being invited to handle the glory. And it's as we handle the glory that we can radiate the glory. Anybody and everybody sitting here can become very instrumental in the hands of God of restoring his glory to this land. He doesn't take anything natural. He takes everything supernatural. But there's a protocol. And very quickly, I want to relate this protocol. For those whose heart to be open, something divine will begin to flow out of them. The first protocol for emitting the light of God is inspiration. You have to be inspired. And even God knows. Many times, when you see people doing mighty things for God, either in full-time ministry or ministry in the sectors or the stratas of human engagement, there was a point where they caught an inspiration. That inspiration is what renavigates you. Everybody will go his own way. He said, all we like sheep have gone our own ways. Every man will choose his own way because rebellion is ingrained in our souls on account of the fall. What causes a man to have that paradigm shift is an inspiration. When that inspiration hits you, it will reprogram you and you start going in the direction of God. In Galatians chapter 1 verse 24, Paul, who was a murderer, suddenly became an inspiration for the whole body of Christ. Paul said, when they heard of him, he said they glorified God for his namesake. It will take an inspiration for you to turn a new leaf. If that inspiration does not come, you will be so tired, so weak, and appear so helpless in doing that which is right. In fact, you may weep and cry and state how you would have loved to, but not able to until inspiration comes. Inspiration has within it the power to turn a man around and to go in the direction of God. And many times, God can use men to inspire you. Many times, God can use circumstances to inspire you. The whole idea is to get your attention. That there's something supernatural around you and that can happen through you. That you are not all you look like. There is something that can happen within you that can affect not just your family, but your world. That inspiration will have to come to you at one point or the other. That is where the journey of glory begins from. You find people too many times, their circumstances have made them stereotyped. They think only in a particular way. When you find a man who has been oppressed before, he cannot think liberty. If you read the story of the 12 spies in Genesis 13 and 14, you don't blame them. They were in Egypt all their lives. They saw pains, they saw oppression. They know the power of Pharaoh. And so you come up overnight, you tell these people that they are going to become great, that they will take over a nation. It was impossible for them. They didn't have sufficient inspiration for that. But there were two men among them that had a different spirit. They had a different inspiration. Why these ones were seeing themselves as grasshoppers before the giants, they were now seeing themselves as warriors and giant killers. It's an inspiration that changes your paradigm. It's an inspiration that changes your thinking process. And that change is what opens you up to glory. But you see, inspiration alone is not enough. Somebody told me, inspire an idiot, he will become an inspired idiot. Inspiration is good, but it's not enough. The moment inspiration hits you and a new frequency begins to stream into you, the next thing to do is to add discipline. Because that inspiration brings energy to your soul. Most of you who came for this conference from last night or the night before, something probably has hit your soul. You've told yourself, as I go back now, I will start praying. I will begin a fast. You told yourself, I will start reading wide. I will become vast. I want to be knowledgeable. You told yourself, I will make money, and money enough to be able to advance God's agenda. That's an inspiration. After you receive that inspiration, you will need discipline to back it up. Because wishful thinking changes nothing. The energy you draw from that inspiration, you have to utilize it, and utilize it quickly. This is where many people get it wrong. The first layer of discipline is to separate yourself from anything that does not facilitate that inspiration. That's the first level of discipline. You separate yourself from anything that diffuses and douses the energy of that inspiration. You receive an inspiration to pray, then leave movies alone, because the two don't go together. You receive an inspiration to become wealthy, then leave lasciviousness alone. You may have to reduce going for the match in Old Trafford, because two of them don't work together. Once in a while you can go there to watch, but you can't be a fan, because a fan claps for the one who makes the impact. And if you want to be the one making the impact, then you have to do something. Paul saw Jesus appeared in his glory. In Acts chapter 9 verse 4 to 6, Jesus himself commissioned Paul. Paul was not commissioned by another man. It was Jesus that told him, rise up, go into the city. You will be told what to do. He didn't see Jesus in the flesh. He saw him in the glory. But that was not enough. In 1 Corinthians 9 verse 25 and verse 27, Paul told us the place of discipline. He said, him that striveth for the mastery is disciplined, is temperate in all things. And in verse 27, he said, I beat my body. I bring it under subjection, so that I will not lead others to God, and myself is a castaway. So a man can be well inspired but disqualified at the end, because it will take discipline to get there. Many persons, they catch an inspiration. The first 1 week, they are all over the place, enthusiastic, talking big things. After 1 week, because they don't know the place of discipline, they allow that inspiration to die. You must become disciplined only to do the things that support the energy of your inspiration. Many are inspired, but they don't have discipline. If there's no discipline, inspiration was in vain. This is the journey to glory. Many people see God using people and they say they are lucky. Who told you? Ask the person God is using. Let him tell you how many sleepless nights he's had. On Friday, I was in Accra, in Ghana, in a place called Pram Pram. It's like 30 minutes from Accra. I ministered from 12 to 3 p.m. I came up again 12 midnight and ministered till 2 a.m. When I finished, I left straight for the airport to catch a flight of 3:40 a.m. in the morning to get to Lagos. I sat down that morning. The flight was delayed. I eventually left around 4:30. I arrived Lagos. Before I came out, immigration and everything, it was 7 a.m. I had to sit again without sleeping to wait to catch Virgin Atlantic to be in London. Another 6 hours. And I landed London. I was picked from London. We drove for 3 hours to Manchester. And 30 minutes later, I was up preaching. The power of God is moving. You say, these people are lucky. For more than 28 hours, I didn't sleep. It takes discipline. Somebody will look at you and say, God is helping this young man. If that is the case, then God is a respecter of persons. But the Bible says it's not a respecter of person. Everybody doing something mighty is paying a great price. From 2012 to 2017, I fasted every day. I didn't appear here. I was made through process. That's 5 years of non-stop fasting. People who stay with me now know, even when I'm not fasting, I can't eat. The stomach has shut down. Because I need to be light to catch inspiration from the Spirit. I need to be volatile so that when the anointing comes upon me, I will ascend like a mist and enter the heavens to pick the heart of the Father. It will take discipline in the area of fasting, discipline in study, discipline in prayer to be able to do this. If God says you are a politician, then you need to understand that every politician that made impact, you must know everything about their lives. You must pattern your life according to their disciplines. That's why the stories of men are told, so that you know the prices that were paid. Because nothing happens. Nothing happens by chance. Everything happening is created. It's made to happen. Many people hide under the comfort of their parents. See, parents need to begin to think like eagles. There's a time when you need to kick that boy out of the house. Go out there and find your future. Because if you stay under my comfort, you are lost. A boy of 25 years is watching movies. And you say you are an inventor. This is why Christianity has become a myopic religious movement. It's not just prayer. It's about taking the systems of this world. And you need to know the area you are engrafted to. If you are a politician at this point and you don't know everything about every prime minister in England, then don't think about the parliament. It takes discipline. When you have caught inspiration, you need discipline. Stop talking and not walking. Now, when you begin to discipline yourself and pressing in the direction of your calling, then something happens. God will now enter the equation to help you. God will now step into the equation to enable you. Moses was determined to deliver Israel. He went the way of his abilities. He went the way of focus, of discipline, of principles. He wanted to do everything humanly possible to deliver Israel. If you continue with discipline and God does not help you, there's a place you will break. Even God knows. The crisis, the challenges, the terror of the devil, something will come along the line. And because God does not want you to break, as you keep pressing, then you enter into encounters. You may start that prayer every day for 1 hour, and you will do it for 6 months. Nothing happens. You are struggling with sleep, you are still praying. God is watching. Because there's a law of consistency in the spirit. He said Jesus did not commit himself to men, for he knew all men. Every spirit will wait to see your desperation, to see your consistency level, to see if you are willing to bear the weight of the ordination you want to walk in. And so God will let you to keep pressing in discipline, in focus, in principles. You keep pressing. A point comes, then God appears. And so the third protocol of the glory is the encounter. And one thing that encounter will do for you is to awaken hunger in your spirit. Hunger is stronger than discipline. If you were to eat food every day by discipline, you will miss your meals many times. Because you can't by discipline eat food for 30 years. But there's an alarm system within you that makes you to eat consistently at a particular time. It's called hunger. And so what God wants to do in order to keep you around the corridor of glory is to inject hunger into your spirit. That's why the psalmist said in Psalm 63 from verse 1 to 2, he said, my soul longeth. I'm not the one doing it. This is not my making. Within me there are forces that draws me to you. He said, thou art my God, early will I seek thee. He said, my soul thirsted for thee, my flesh longeth after thee, as in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. Something beyond the man has taken over him. Every man walking in the glory, there is a force that took over him at some point. That force is what makes that man unable to stop even when he wants to. It eats him up from within. It's a thirst that cannot be quenched. It's a hunger. Encounters come to awaken hunger, because there is a measure you need to journey to in order to come out with something. The Bible spoke concerning Moses. It said Moses stepped into the deep darkness where God was. So even when God hid himself, Moses was still seeking, because he can't go back. He said, we are not of them that drop back onto perdition. There's no future behind. And so something must awaken on your inside to keep you going even when the going gets tough. Encounters come to make you dogged. Encounters come to make you forget the former things, so that you can press. You can press until you keep seeing the glory and you see more of it. There are many persons who have not sustained and cultured discipline until they came to encounter. It took Moses 40 years to get to Horeb, but he never changed his mind. For 40 years, the guy kept going there, because Jethro told him that mountain is called the mountain of God. You know, Jethro is one of the sons of Keturah, who was Abraham's concubine. And so he was from a lineage that came from Abraham. And Abraham taught his children the way of the Lord. Even Abraham's servants were not normal people. So the sons of Abraham and the servants of Abraham were all taught. That's why Jethro was the one who came to teach Moses how to divide men into ranks. He said, this work will weary you. He said, raise captains of thousands, captains of 100, captains of 50, captains of 10. He knew the ways of God. So he told Moses, there is a spirit on that mountain. Elohim dwells there. It's called the mountain of God. And so many times when Moses is done grazing, he will go to the backside. Well, maybe God can appear today. Maybe God will appear today. A hunger was awoken in him, and he kept going. He kept going until the day the oracle of God stood before him. And from that day, Moses became a city taker. From that day, Moses became an envoy of Zion. From that day, Moses became an ambassador of heaven. And so your discipline is designed to take you to the corridor of hunger. It is when you enter hunger that you become a servant of the glory. That's why you can behold the glory and not be tired. That's why you can stay there and not think about time. Did you not read about Moses? Moses was on top of the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. There was no food, there was no water, but he was too hungry to be satisfied by physical things. And when Moses descended from there, in Exodus 30:29, it said Moses wist not that his face shone. The man had become like a deity. From that day on, everywhere Moses spoke, his voice was like the thunder of God. He had entered something that was beyond the realms of mortals. Discipline is still at the mortal realm, but there is something in you that will only be activated when you cross the great divide. You have to see the God of heaven for yourself. John was speaking in 1 John chapter 1 verse 1. He said, that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled. It's not a story a pastor told me. It's not a story I read in a book. I started from there. I was inspired, and then I started searching by discipline until a point came that God appeared to me. He said, we handled of the word of life. When you have handled, you have become an ambassador. When you have handled, you have become a witness. And so a man who wants to shine forth the glory of God sufficiently to take and to affect a human civilization must have seen God for himself. He must have touched God for himself. A dimension of God would have appeared through him. Listen, a title cannot make that happen for you. Your position in an institution cannot make that happen for you. You can call yourself a prophet. You can call yourself a president. It doesn't mean you will reign. But when you touch him, even if you don't have a title, your generation will bow to you. When you touch him, even if you don't have a title, the territory will respond when you show up. When you touch him, even if you don't have a title, something must happen. I was told that they decided to honor Daddy Gio in Maryland, in the US, because they noticed consistently for more than 10 years that anytime he steps into the land, the crime rate drops. It's not because police became efficient. It's not because there is surveillance. As he enters the land, the demon that inspires people to do crime, the atmosphere over the territory shifts. See, crimes are product of dark atmospheres. I was discussing with my friends last night of the killings in London. Some years ago, it was even more intense. But certain men appeared there, and they began to shift the cloud. And when the cloud shifts, men become reasonable. And so this is not church. The police discovered every time they say this man comes, in days, crime just shoots down. What is it about him? So they honored him and gave him a key over the city. Because we now discover that even though you came from Nigeria, you are a global gatekeeper. When you it's not about the preaching, it's about the entourage that came with him. And so he can enter the city and not preach. The territory knows he came. You don't need to preach for the city to know that you came. When you enter there with sufficient glory, the systems will respond. The demons will know that a being has come here, because there are registers in the spirit. He said, Jesus will know, Paul will know. Who are you? They know men there, but it's based on the glory they carry. Christ is in you. And he said the reason Christ came into you is for a hope. He said that hope is glory. That glory can emit through you. There's a glory that must come out of you. But for that glory to happen, you must journey from inspiration through discipline to hunger. A hunger that overwhelms you, and you tell yourself, I will not stop until something supernatural comes on me. Thank God for my certificate. Thank God for my training. Thank God for my business. But I will not stop here. I will not stop here. That's what Paul caught. And he said, according as it is written. He said, they believe and have spoken. We having the same spirit of faith. We believe and therefore we speak. Romans 15 verse 4, the Bible said, the things that were written aforetime. He said they were written for our learning, so that we through patience and comfort of the scripture might have hope. And so you are angry, and you tell yourself, Paul too was a lawyer. But there was something about Paul's life that made many generations after him not to forget him. You tell yourself, Daniel, Nehemiah, they were politicians, but there was something about them that was deeper than politics. They were able to restore the glory of God over nations. You tell yourself, Joseph too was a man in government, but there was something more about him. How could he preserve the heritage of God? Not only over Egypt, but the whole world came to Egypt because of Joseph. What did they carry? There was a glory on their lives. And you will tell yourself, I will not be one of the many doctors. I will not be one of the many lawyers. There has to be a glory on my life. If that kind of hunger is not awakened in your spirit, then it means you've not had encounters. It means you've not had encounters. Encounters come to awaken you to the fullness of your reality. Refuse to be mundane. Thank God for the gymming. It's good for health. But the life is bigger than having a broad chest. Thank God for the foundation and mascara. Life is bigger than having a beautiful face. Spirits don't look at the size of your chest. They look at the weight of glory you carry. Spirits don't look at your physical beauty. They look at the authority with which you can command. And so when God created us, he created us to reign in the spirit. And it will take hunger to get there. When you begin to service that hunger, a point comes when you enter into participation. They will now allow you to begin to interact, not just with God, but with the beings that live there. It was John that was speaking. He said, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard a sound as of a trumpet. And he said in Revelation 4 verse 1, he said, I heard that sound again, and a door opened in heaven, and I heard a voice said, come up hither. The moment he entered there, he began to interact with the elders. That was when he said, I saw 24 elders. You begin to talk with beings that are eternal. You begin to talk to beings that are immortal. You will press until you are given access to participate. The men who rule this world, if they tell you the truth, they see things, they hear things, and they attend meetings beyond the stars. Nobody speaks and 1 million people hear just because he understands English. They touch something in the spirit, either in the demonic or in light. A prophet said he went to see that he heard Adeboye, and they kept him outside beyond the normal time for over 4 hours. Somewhere in his heart he was wondering, what happened today? Did I do something wrong? Am I being edged out? And when Daddy allowed him to see him eventually, he said, sorry, I was in a meeting with Isaiah. I know you are redeemed, you didn't hear it. I was in a meeting with Isaiah. And then you think a man can sit in one village called Redemption Camp, and every continent of the world, there are systems bowing because of him. He said when they told him to head the Redeemed Christian Church, he stood in the Redemption Camp and he told God, how can I do this? While he was talking to God, he said light fell from heaven, hit the ground and created an earthquake. He said the impact of the tremor went as far as Ijeboy did. You will now hear him preach, and you are preaching slowly. It's beyond a slow tone. It's beyond a slow tone. He can inspire you. You can aspire to be like him. But there are beings you have seen. The hotel where they prayed for him to take over. The stories we heard was, as they were praying in that hotel, there was a tremor. In the United States, there was a tremor. And the engineers came to survey the hotel. They said, which heavy equipment are you using here? They said, no, we are not using any heavy equipment. We are just praying with our tambourine. The engineers had to search the whole room. They didn't see anything. But from that day, they cancelled that hotel because of the impact of the foundation. It took over 6 years for him to come back and lay hands on the wall for the hotel to be reopened. Because a man is praying, and the entourage that enters his prayer room are so heavy that foundations of buildings shake. Can we bow our heads and pray now? You want to talk to the Lord sincerely this morning? There are some of us, what we lack is the discipline. You start praying, after 1 week, prayer dies. You start studying, after 1 week, study dies. The only thing you are able to do is what you are regimented to do, either by your job or by an institution you belong to. Can we ask God for the discipline? Some of us here, we lack the encounters that trigger hunger, passion for immortal things. We are easily satisfied. Too satisfied. When Mary Magdalene went to the tomb of Jesus, she saw the napkin. She was not satisfied. She saw 2 angels. She was not satisfied. She wanted to see the master. Where have you kept him? Our hunger level is too shallow. Anything that happens is fine. No, it ought not to be. There are some of us, we've never interacted with anything that is eternal or any being from the realm of God. Even the word has not come alive to us before. Everything is dead. And that's why we are cold as a United Kingdom. Can we ask God for those encounters, for access in this realm? For access. And then some of us, we've not been commissioned. We've not been commissioned to the academia. We've not been commissioned to business. We've not been commissioned to sport. That's why we are struggling to enter. We are being edged out. We use human connection, it doesn't work. Because we've not been commissioned. If you are commissioned, you will come there with authority. The sport world cannot edge you out. The entertainment world cannot edge you out. But you need to be commissioned. Can we ask for that this morning?